Hey there, my name is Brian Mounts. I run turfmechanic.com and the Turf Mechanic YouTube channel. This year, I wanted to know what the best battery lawnmower was. So, what did I do? I decided to go out this spring and buy 6 of the nicest battery-powered lawnmowers on the market. And then, for comparison's sake, I bought a relatively inexpensive 40-volt model. My son loves to throw his lawnmowers next to mine, so that one's there too. I'm recording this video in August of 2020. This is not an exhaustive list of battery-powered lawnmowers. These are some of the nicest ones that you can buy today. I've been using each one of these lawnmowers for the past few months, really since before the growing season began back in March. I have plenty of experience with each one of these lawnmowers, and I want to tell you what I think about them, what I like about them, what's good about them, what's not good about them. I want you to believe that you are buying the best battery mower you possibly can for the right price. So, regular subscribers to this channel already know this about me. I love tending to the lawn. I love my battery-powered equipment. I run battery-powered blowers, I run battery-powered lawnmowers, I run battery-powered workshop tools like drills and saws and all of that stuff. I'm a big proponent of operating on batteries. I think it's cleaner, they're quieter, they're easier to maintain. There are plenty of reasons to do so. With a battery-powered lawnmower, however, the price can get pretty expensive if you're going to buy on the high end. Now, I have right here, I've got Snapper, I've got Toro, Greenworks Pro, Ego, SunJoe, Yard Force. All of these are top of the line. These are as good as they get. I suppose I should say the Snapper XD. They do have a newer model, Snapper XD, that has, let's say, a fancy touch drive sort of self-propelled system. So, like I said, this isn't an exhaustive list. I anticipate buying that mower sometime probably this fall to give that a whirl. These are all some of the best ones that you can buy. They cost a lot, and I think any one of them will work for just about anybody. Having said that, there are some of these mowers that I wouldn't recommend. Here's my son. You want to show him your lawnmower? Is that the good one? Yeah. Go cut the grass. If you're looking to buy a battery-powered lawnmower, I cannot stress this enough. I do not recommend buying a battery-powered lawnmower that is underpowered or doesn't have enough power. Almost every low-end or inexpensive battery mower, the 40-volt varieties, the 36s, the 24s, all of those lower voltage units, almost without exception, are less powerful than any of these others. Back here I've got an Earthwise dual 40 volt, and yeah, it gets the job done, but only in scenarios where the grass isn't particularly thick, it isn't very long, I'm not cutting very much off of it. It just doesn't have anywhere close to the same amount of strength as any of these others. So when you're buying a battery powered mower, I can't recommend you going into the 40 volt or under category. I just don't believe the power is there to get the job done well. Now, there are a handful of other mowers that are on the higher voltage sides that I don't have displayed here. Greenworks, this is the Greenworks Pro 80 volt. They have a whole 60 volt line. And a couple of those mowers are really high on my wish list, but as you can see, they take up a lot of space. So I just had to call it quits somewhere. There are 2 Greenworks 60 volt mowers that I have on my wish list. There's a 25-inch model with a dual blade like this. And then there is another 21-inch model that has different functions. For one, it operates with a turbo button. You could like override the sensor that senses when things are thick and need more power. And I'm really anxious to give that a try. Now, having said that, of all of the mowers here, I believe that this one right here is going to be the best option for the most amount of people. This mower, from my experience mowing here in my yard, mowing in my upper yard, and mowing down in my lower yard, this mower has more power than any of the others. The battery length is very long, possibly not quite as long as the Ego, but not by very much. The self-propelled system is very easy to use. This mower is the quietest of them all. This mower does not have built-in things that stick out and snag on your fences and your trees and shrubs. This mower goes up and down easily. I have left this mower out in the rain. It has water resistance. Honestly, all of them have really good water resistance, except for the Earthwise. Earthwise does not. You don't want to get that thing wet at all. Every other one of these does great. Now, I wouldn't purposefully put it in a sprinkler or leave it out in a rain, but if it happens, they all work flawlessly the next day. So, now, with that semi-endorsement out of the way, I wanted to talk about what's great about all of the others, because there is really good reasons for you to buy any of these, and probably some of the others that I haven't tested at all. This right here is the Toro 22-inch Recycler. This is their 60 volt. This is probably the best lawnmower of them all for cutting tall, overgrown grass. The blade is the widest of all of them. This mower advertises itself as a 22-inch deck, and the blade itself is 21 5/8 inches wide. Not only is the blade on this got the largest diameter of all of the mowers here, but it's also got the thickest. So the blade is physically thicker than all of the others. This mower's blade is 1/1300ths of an inch thick. Now that doesn't sound very thick, but for a mower blade, it is substantial. All of the other mowers here, let's see, Greenworks Pro, Yard Force, Ego, Snapper, their mowers blades are 0.11 inches thick. If we move back here to the Earthwise model, this is the cheap 40 volt version, and surprisingly to me, the SunJoe, which is the furthest away, those have the thinnest blades. Those come in at 0.07 inches thick. So if you compare the SunJoe's blade to the Toro's blade is almost twice as thick. And you can imagine what that does. As the blade is spinning, it is a thicker, meatier, stronger blade. It will not flex. If you flip over the SunJoe, you can grab the blade and bend it. I mean, not like bend it, but it will flex in and out. This will not. If you put a lot of tension on it, you can get it to move a little bit, but not very much. For battery mowers, of the single blade going around variety, this has the largest cutting diameter. On cruise control, this thing goes really fast, although it's not the fastest one of them all. But you are going to cover more ground with each pass with this, and you're basically going to cut the grass faster with this. It doesn't bog down in thick, wet grass. It will cut the tall grass easier. It will physically travel across the yard faster, and it will cover more ground space. Now, that sounds amazing, and this mower is probably, it's probably my next favorite out of all of these. There are an enormous amount of people who are huge, hardcore fans of the Toro brand. These guys make fantastic mowers. This deck is steel. This mower is heavy. This mower has regular parts that can be changed. So for instance, if your up and down brakes on any of the others, the whole thing doesn't go up and down. Here, if this breaks, you can just go off to your local shop and just buy this part. This mower is fantastic. Got a good battery on it. This battery has a nice handle. You got 5 bars. It charges a little slow. I don't like how much time it takes to charge, but the battery lasts for a good solid amount of time. It is not the longest lasting battery of them all, however. If you care more about battery length and kind of battery performance, then Ego is definitely the way to go. Ego offers a variety of batteries. I've got a 5 amp hour battery in the garage, and currently inside my Ego lawnmower, I've got a 7.5 amp hour battery. It lasts longer than anything else under normal conditions. And not only that, when you go to charge it, it charges faster than everything else. You can charge a full 7.5 amp hour Ego battery in about an hour, maybe a little bit less. This morning I charged that Ego battery from almost depleted to fully charged in about 48 minutes. I don't let my batteries go all the way dead, so I don't know exactly what it is to the minute or the second to charge these things from dead to full, because I don't think that's really all that important. Generally speaking, you can get a quick charge out of the Ego, but it takes generally twice as long to charge this battery. Yard Force over there, that is a dual battery system. It's 120 volt, but you can't get one big battery in it. You have to have 2 small batteries. So in that right now, I've got 2 2.5 amp hour batteries. Each one of those can be charged in about 40 minutes. So both of those from dead is about an hour and 20 minutes. However, it's only a combined, if you add 2.5 and 2.5, it's only a 5 amp hour battery system over there in the Yard Force. You're actually still going to get more battery length out of the Ego, and the Greenworks Pro is going to go longer, and the SunJoe is going to go longer. Shoot, I think this is even going to go longer than the Yard Force if you've got the bigger batteries installed in them. Yard Force is going to be the largest voltage of them all. It's a 120 volt machine over there. That's the reason, in my opinion, why you've got 2 smaller amp hour batteries, because they're just bigger voltage batteries. That machine is extremely strong. It's got the second widest cutting width of them all if you actually measure the blade. The blade width on the Yard Force is 20 3/4 inches. It's billed as a 21-inch deck. It is the strongest machine here. It is heavy. It's the heaviest one here. It is it's steel. It almost feels like a gas mower. It's the loudest one here. It is still lighter than gas mowers, but it's the heaviest of all of the battery mowers. It's the loudest of the battery mowers, but it's still quieter than a gas-powered mower. The Yard Force mower over there has the fastest blade rotation. Now, this blade is slightly wider and it's slightly thicker, but the Yard Force blade is spinning faster. It's a simpler blade too. It's not as well designed as some blades from like the Ego. The blade for the Yard Force is fairly simple. It's not like a fancy blade. It's not a high lift or a heavy mulching blade, but it is traveling faster. So you're going to find that when you run the Yard Force over thicker grass, it's going to cut it very well, but it doesn't mulch it very well. So you've got lots of grass to mulch. It's not going to mulch it quite as well. It's going to leave a little bit of mulching lines around the wheel mark, kind of the sides of the machine. What I have found in using it is when I bag with the yard force, it bags better than all of them except for Toro. Toro simply bags the best. So whether you're going to be bagging your grass clippings or using your lawnmower like a vacuum cleaner during the fall, picking up leaves, if you, in early spring, if you scalp your lawn and want to pick up all that old material that accumulated over the winter, you're going to get a better suction and bagging experience out of the Toro, followed by the yard force. All of the others do fine. None of them really blow any of the others out of the water. When it comes to mulching just regular grass, you know, not overgrown grass, you're going to find a really good mulching experience out of the Ego. The Ego, now there's a variety of Ego models. I have the top of the line one. I've got the one with the self-propelled and the crisscross select cut blade system. So that model is designed to mulch like it's got two blades spinning around. Now the blades aren't particularly wide and they're not the thickest blades of them all, but there's two of them and they do mulch well. All right, so I've been talking a lot about the yard force, the Toro, and the Ego select cut mower. And I've told you that I like the Greenworks Pro 80 volt the best of them all. Why is that? Well, for one, it has to do with the strength. More than just about anything. The strength of this mower paired with the length, like the battery life length, and the simplistic nature of the self-propelled system. That is truly the main reason why. Here we are in the mowing position. There's my shadow. So basically what you've got here is the blade engage bar, and you've got the self-propelled bar. That just makes it go. It doesn't have to be on. What I like about this is you've got a nice little cruise control lever, and it's got a good variety of speeds, and it's stable. When you are mowing, you don't have to use the self-propelled bar if you don't want to. If you do want to, then it certainly is easy. But then once you get up to obstacles, you can turn it off and do this and that and whatever it is that you want. Super easy. Now, as an alternative to the standard bar self-propelled or the personal pace system from Toro, Ego has a very unique system, one that I haven't seen duplicated anywhere. If you come up here, they've got their blade, let me zoom out here, they've got their blade engage bar here, but instead of a self-propelled bar, they have these buttons. These buttons make it go. And you've got one here, and you don't need to push them both at the same time. That basically means you can hold the machine and mow free-handed, or you can use the self-propelled system. So the main reason why the Ego self-propelled system is so good is because you can have both hands on the handlebar and one of them is pushing the self-propelled button while the other one isn't. If you want to turn self-propelled off, then you just stop pushing the button with the hand that's pushing the button. You don't have to move your thumbs like you do with these bars. You know, if both hands are in there, you got to let go of the bar and then grab it again next time you want it. This is just easier, and that's one reason why the SunJoe system is pretty good too. Although they use a bar, the bar only extends up on one side, which means one side can be firmly grabbing the handlebar at all times, while the other one is operating the self-propelled bar. So if you don't want to use self-propelled at the end of a row, you let go of the one bar while the other one still is under full control. It's easy to go back and forth. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about SunJoe's lawnmower. SunJoe has a 100-volt battery. There it is right there. That battery is behind a transparent plastic cover. It does keep the water out, but the sun is baking it right now. It gets so hot in there. Not only that, but the blade underneath is extremely thin and flimsy. Although the machine is extremely strong, very, very strong, the blade is not. And when it encounters really thick turf, it will bend and flex. And when that happens, you're going to get a really poor cut quality. This is a section of my lawn where I was cutting with the SunJoe. And as it encountered thick, healthy grass, the blade bent and went down into the ground and just destroyed this part of the lawn. Now I have a full review of the SunJoe, and I go into more detail as to what happened. But my point is that bending and flexing of the blade is really the worst feature of the entire lawnmower. Although this mower is extremely strong and totally capable of going through extremely difficult areas, wet grass and thick, tall, weedy stuff, it's just not the best option for cut quality. I needed to interrupt the video here for a second, mostly because I wanted to say thank you for watching this far into the video. If you're watching this, you're like 20 minutes in. Something like that. That's pretty impressive. I really hope that you're finding this helpful. That's for sure. Please, I have to encourage you at this point. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. I have poured an enormous amount of time and money into producing this video. The average person does not go and buy 7 lawnmowers and test them out for 5 months. So I hope these are helpful. I hope all my comments are helpful. Please support me by hitting those buttons and taking a look at everything that I threw into the description and pinned comments down below. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the rest of the video. Of all these mowers, I prefer this the most. It's a 21-inch self-propelled, simplistic self-propelled system with a big, strong battery. This thing never bogs down. But I do really understand why this one is so loved by lots and lots of lawnmower owners. And I also understand exactly why Ego is so popular. This is a very comfortable lawnmower to use. But even though these are probably the two that I recommend the most, I actually prefer grabbing my Snapper 82-volt push mower. The reason for this has to do with power. It's very, very similar in power to the Greenworks over here. It pretty much always gets through whatever I throw at it. It never stalls, and it is incredibly light. So the Ego machine is the lightest self-propelled unit that I have tested. This is a little bit lighter, or at least it feels lighter to me. I haven't picked it up and stuck it on a bathroom scale or anything, but it feels lighter and it's more narrow. And since it's a push only, it is really, really easy to maneuver around the yard. Because it's so strong, I always know that it's going to get through whatever I throw at it, and it's just simple to move around. Now, Snapper XD has a few different models. There's this 19-inch push version, there's also a 21-inch self-propelled version, and there's also a newer 21-inch version with a self-propelled, I can't think of what they call it, but it's it's kind of like Toro's personal pace. It's like a touch drive, or it's got one of these handlebar styles that you just lean into it and then it moves. I am very interested in giving that a try. I put my limit this season on these 7 mowers. However, the Snapper XD with the fancy self-propulsion system is on my short list to try for later in the fall 2020 or spring 2021. There's definitely a good number of miscellaneous reasons why some of these mowers are better than the others. We've got dual battery control on things like the Earthwise and the Yard Force. Earthwise, of course, is nowhere near as strong as the Yard Force, but both of them offer 2 batteries. When you use one battery up, then the machine starts working off of the second battery. One additional good thing about that is that if one battery goes bad, you've still got a second one as a backup. The Snapper XD I also bought with 2 batteries. The difference with this is that only one go in the machine at a time. Also, both of them were pretty small. They were 2 amp hour batteries, which means neither one lasts particularly long. Snapper XD does offer 4 amp hour and 5 amp hour batteries, but they're harder to find. Toro is the coolest one when it comes to their mulch plug system. When you've got this lever down, the little trap door in here is open and all of the clippings go up into the bag. When you push the button and bring this up, then a little trap door closes and nothing goes into the bag and it all gets mulched. Every single one of these mowers folds up pretty nicely. However, some of them fold up nicer than others. The SunJoe is literally the easiest one to fold up. It's the fastest and simplest, followed very closely by Ego's, Yard Force's machines, which use these little levers, and Toro's, which use these locking levers. The other machines, including Greenworks Pro, Snapper XD, and Earthwise to some extent, will still fold up, and they all offer these little stands to store each lawnmower vertically. The last truly main thing to note, other than pricing, is that every one of these offers side discharge, except for Ego's model. This will only mulch or bag, but if you want a side discharge, you don't have that option. By far and away, I spent more money on the Yard Force lawnmower over all of the others. Basic MSRP pricing for the Yard Force is in the low 800s. The other units are cheaper. SunJoe is a close second, although it is easier to find that on sale. And honestly, Yard Force is findable for a lower price as well. As for the other units, Earthwise is the low-cost unit of them all. Snapper is not that far behind, mostly because that's a non-self-propelled version as well. I think it is a very good deal, even at full price, if you find that Snapper 19-inch or the Snapper 21-inch with the standard self-propelled bar. The other mowers fall right in the middle in terms of pricing. Greenworks Pro, Ego, and even Toro all fall kind of into that mid-range, kind of in that $450 to $650 range, depending on the battery that you purchase with the units. Some of these mowers aren't my favorite, but when you consider the other tools in their line, it's a pretty compelling purchase. For me, especially if your lawn isn't perfectly thick. If you just need to hack down through the grass and weeds, then this is a pretty good option. Yard Force is a very compelling buy if you can find it for a low sales price. The Yard Force is extremely strong. I love that it gives you full blade rotation speed, like max power most of the time. It will still rev up to 3,500 RPMs if it needs it, so it's got some extra juice in the tank. But it's pretty pricey, and there is a limited number of extra tools that the batteries will run. I would still recommend most people to buy the Greenworks Pro 80 volt. I think it's a great value, and it's a really nice machine to use. Another thing to note is every one of these mower systems, because they work on batteries, the batteries work other tools in the line. Right now I'm currently reviewing as many of the battery blowers as I can get my hands on because they all use the same batteries And of course, if you're going to buy a big mower with a battery, you might as well pay for the tool only version of whatever complementary tool you find useful in your yard. For me, I use blowers various times throughout the year, cleaning up leaves in the fall, cleaning up grass clippings after I mow. Even in the winter, I use them to clean up dustings of snow on the driveway and sidewalks. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video off there. I was starting to ramble a bit. I tend to do that a lot. Anyway, I want to say thank you one more time for watching. Certainly 30 some odd minute videos are a large time investment. If you're shopping around for something like this, I mean, you're looking to spend $500 plus probably. So hopefully this was helpful. Really do hope that it helped you make some decisions. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Please take a look at the links down in the description. And head over to turfmechanic.com. Take a look at the strongest battery mower page over there, as well as the blower and the snow blower page whenever those go up. I appreciate your time. Take care.